Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's good to have you back for the 11th session in these past years together with the INSEAD, the French INSEAD Alumni Association. Thank you, Claude and Juliana, for having us in this partnership with these masterclasses. We're back on leadership topics, leadership in the new normal, after all the changes in the past years and the new expectations. So I'm Marie Humblot-Ferrero. I'm managing director at BCG. I've developed in these past years several passions, biopharma and people. I've supported leaders in the pharma industry and other industries as well on developing strategies, industrial performance, digital transformation, but also together with my colleague Fanny, I've performed research on leadership and what is expected from leaders in this new century full of challenges. First of all, let me warmly welcome our invitee today, Fabrice D'Erm. Thank you for being with us this morning. Fabrice is the co-founder and CEO of the Rocket Foundation, which provides coaching and financial support to early-stage social entrepreneurs and organizations. Fabrice is also an entrepreneur and investor in numerous companies with a clear focus on social startups since 2016, where he started his journey on sustainable and impact investments. His latest venture is based in London and electrifies all classic cars while offering new job opportunities to second chance workers, Revival Autos. In 2018, Fabrice resigned from his leadership role at a large financial organization to spend time with his family and set up the Rocket Foundation. Fabrice is an experienced investment professional, having spent 25 years working in various European countries. He believes in the power of giving back or paying forward with the responsibility to leave a better place to the next generation. I guess that's what we call generative leadership. He's married with 3 children and lives close to Zurich. His passions involve photography, traveling, wine, and obviously classic cars. Fabrice has a master in finance from Paris Nanterre, and he's an INSEAD alumni. So thank you for being with us again.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
Last but not least, let me introduce Fanny Potier. She's an INSEAD MBA alumni and a partner and director at BCG. She has a long experience in people and leadership strategy. She's the co-author of our generative leadership approach at BCG, and she's convinced, you will see today again, that leaders are more than ever the key to unlock the change. We need them across the organization from top to bottom to leave this world a better place than what we have found it. I have to excuse Sumi Pasupathy that unfortunately was called for an urgent client meeting that was a planned short notice and that won't be with us today. But we would have a full of things and topics to discuss together with our participants. So let me continue and give you just a quick intro on generative leadership for those that are new to this session. The playing field for organizations have dramatically shifted in the past years, and the whole century habits or the old century's competitive advantage that was about selling, about competition, and about performance, being productive and extracting resources from the field has changed. Today, in order to survive, we obviously need to continue to build competitive advantage. Being and working at BCG, I will not say something different from a strategic perspective. You need to build this competitive advantage, but you also need to be mindful of the resources that you're using, being the natural resources, being the financial resources, or being the human resources. Because you need to be mindful of that, to regenerate that, and to ensure the sustainability of the planet, as well as the sustainability of your company, and both are more than ever combined. So resource extraction, as I was saying, we believe is out of date. What got us there won't get us to a brighter future, and our survival as people and our survival as companies is at stake. The planet resources are exhausted, and then the company's resources are impacted. People's worker expectations have dramatically shifted. Geopolitical tension, local politics, and fragmentations in society are having a dangerous impact, and we see that on almost every day across us. And accumulating wealth beyond one generation is more than ever, again, irrational, because we need to protect our future, but we need to build that future today. So leaders are key for that. It's a new game, it's a new player, and it's a new leadership that we need. Leaders will strategize were enough in the past, but today we need a new kind of leadership, one that is focusing on regenerating resources, planet, people, societies, and ensuring our survival. I don't want, after that, I realize this is already too much and it can be perceived as somehow negative. This is not the point of the discussion today. Together with my colleague and Fabrice, we want to really have a positive narrative around that. And this is more a call for action so that we discuss and we see what are the solutions that we can find, because we are part of the problem, we are part of the solution. So the idea is not to be depressed after all, but to generate a larger community that can work together and that can be energized together to find the solutions. We sometimes think that younger generation, and we're all, I guess, in an age where we think that younger generation are very knowledgeable and active in doing things. Collectively, we think that we still have and we need to play a key role. We don't have a choice and we need to work together. The topic for today is actually how do we work together? How generative leaders let go their ego? Because we think that past generations and past century leaders were also these hero leader that could have put forward a company and could have brought together a lot of different people. More than ever, considering the different stakes that we're facing today, it's more of a collective game. Like in sports, everyone has a role to play, everyone has something to bring to the table, and it's the collective teaming, the collective intelligence that will allow everyone to define the solutions and to define the path forward. For that, obviously, we as individuals and leaders in general would have to work about their ego. How do you let go? How do you delegate? How do you empower? How do you make that team work in the best way possible? So let me pause here and give the floor to Fanny for the first question. Why teaming is so important? Why making decisions as a team isn't creating a risk of making no decisions, but at least again, at the contrary, to make the right decisions and not poor ones.
Yeah, thank you, Marie. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here this morning and talk about teaming and no ego, as this is one of my favorite topics. I just want to start with a quote, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'm sure you know that quote, but it's never truer than it is today. As Marie said, more than ever before, leadership is a collective art, and it requires the mobilization of personalities as diverse as they are complementary. As Marie said again, no single hero can tackle the complexity of recreating resources for the people, planet, and societies, whilst being mindful of creating financial value for shareholders. And as you said, Marie, the issues that we face are collective. We all created in our own way the problems, and we must together act to find solutions. And we really need leaders who act together with their teams, with their managing teams or leadership teams as high value creation generative teams. That being said, it's hard work, right? So let me start with a little bit of what is teaming and come back to the true measure of a team. And the true measure of a team is that it achieves the results that it is set to achieve. And it does that on a consistent and ongoing basis. And to the second part of the question, teaming is not about building consensus at all costs and generally at the cost of making poor decisions. I won't go into so many examples. I'm sure if you think about your own experience or societal experience we are all living currently and have lived in the past, you will have many examples of poor decision making derived from trying to build consensus at all costs. So this is not about no ego, and teaming is not about achieving consensus. It's about enriching your decision making by making sure that you let the diverse voice that are represented in the team be heard. So you let them be heard, but on the other hand, you also, as a leader, has a responsibility to get your voice heard. Because usually when we talk about speaking up, there are two ends of the spectrum. You have very dominant people who are quite assertive and they have no issues with speaking up and contributing to a decision-making process. On the other end of the spectrum, usually in a team, you also see some team members who disengage because they lack the ability to getting their voice come across, and they are not necessarily all equipped to communicate properly the points that they want to share or contribute to the decision, particularly in a multicultural environment where everybody has to speak a different language most of the time, and that language being English, the language we use today and we have used in the past for those masterclass. Teaming is hard work. Okay, I wanted to share, let's come back to my own experience, both as a consultant and as working as BCG. At BCG, we team on everything that we do. Okay, we dedicate significant resources to make teamwork. So no ego and making teamwork is hard work. And you're all leaders in your organization. And if I want to land one message here is that when you go back to your teams, and with some awareness that the teaming maybe is not at the level that you would like it to be, think carefully about the resources that you should put in place to address some of the needs of the team members to make it work. And we also do work a lot with clients, and we team a lot with clients, and we work alongside many teams. And I have to say that in many cases, I observe that most teams start as mere working groups, and that there is a long path forward to becoming a high-value creating generative team. Some teams embark on that journey, others don't do the journey, and therefore that will lead eventually to decisions which probably are not the most optimal for the organization and for the environment where the team operates. And let's be real about that. That being said, again, it's not because it's hard work that it's painful or that it's very long. You can progress very fast to being a high-value generative team in the time frame of a few months, and it can be really fun. It's just, the question is just how aware is the team of their place or where they are in this journey of achieving high-value creation status, and how willing are individuals in the team and the team as a collective to make a shift and to work hard to make that shift. And again, this is coming from experience. I can't divulge client names, obviously, but we do a lot of work on teamwork with clients. Just a couple of additional thoughts if you want to bring that home to your teams. And maybe you have heard of that reference as well in your past or in your current present, or maybe you're already working on that. But for teaming to work, I would start with a negative, and I apologize for that, but we need to avoid a number of things. The first one is, and it's the most important one, is the absence of trust. For teaming to work, you need trust. It feels like a cliche to say that, but I can tell you that most teams I work with, at the beginning, there's no trust, or there's very limited trust between the team members. And that's the biggest hurdle to overcome as a team. And to be positive, members of great teams, they trust one another, and they trust one another on the fundamental level, right? They are comfortable being vulnerable about their weaknesses, about their mistakes, about their fears. And they are at a place where they open up to one another without any filters. And that requires, for some people, a bit of work and a bit of time to be able to open up very openly and very genuine to your team members. The other point is you need conflict. And if you trust one another in a team, then you can engage on passionate dialogues, on issues. And this is how, everybody can contribute in the debate in order to bring better solutions to the world and to come up with better and greater decisions. The other point is a lack of commitment. Once you've contributed or you've been engaged in passionate debates, then the outcome is not necessarily, as I was saying, it's not a consensus. Sometimes there are some decisions where you contributed, but you're not necessarily heard, or your points was maybe less relevant than other members of the team. And so this is about commitment. Still, as a team, you are required to own the decisions, even though you may have had originally your own doubts about the decision that was made. And again, we often observe that in a transformation, all organizations currently are in a transformation state. I was asked this question earlier this week, and I would say, no, I would see 100% of our clients, they're in a transformation. Big, small, but they're in a transformation now. And in transformation, as a leader, even though you contributed to the debate, you don't necessarily agree with all the decisions. So in a transformation, this is a fantastic opportunity to be rehired by your organization. But if you decide to be rehired by your organization and follow the transformation and support it and contribute and lead it, it's important that you also own some of the decision, even though they may not be the ones you would have made standalone. And lastly, very quickly, two important points that follow from this commitment is accountability and paying attention to results. And again, sometimes we see a disconnect between what we call a top leadership group, which may have achieved great teaming at that level, but teaming is also teaming with the rest of the organization and teaming with the middle managers and teaming with the teams more at the operational level and making sure that they deliver what you expect them to deliver to execute on the strategy.
I was saying thank you for your message and having trust as a foundation. If I turn now to Fabrice, I was going to say maybe it's also giving back as a foundation, generosity and trust and generosity. We can also discuss how the two combine and augment each other. Fabrice, can you tell us a bit more about the Rocket Foundation and what led you to it and in this leadership journey?
Thank you very much, Marie, and very interesting, Fanny. And you see, I tried to make some link of why we do it and how we do it at the Rocket Foundation. And there's a lot of similarities with your analysis. Look, I think the Rocket was born in 18 with the team, but the why question came and at Christmas 17. I was basically flying back from London, back home. My eldest was 5.5. And one night I come back and he's asking, Papa, why you're never around? Why you're always traveling? And why you are so tired that you can't play the train with me when you're at home? Can I come and see your office? And that's the sort of questions when you come back, London Heathrow, full day, it kills you half. And at that point of time, I had a senior role. I was managing 80 people, big P&L, traveling. I was still in my, I would say, high of my career, super motivated. I had worked and traveled many years, and I was working in London, in Paris, in Switzerland, in Germany. And then I realized I'm missing out. I am missing out something extremely important, which is my team. I've misplaced the teamwork. And the teamwork meaning I was spending more time with my team than with my own team, which is my 3 boys and my wife. And then this is where I decided to switch. And 3 months later, I had resigned. And 4 months later, I was already working on a project with 2 other friends. We were on the same life cycle, pretty successful. We had made a bit of money. We had families, and we had a real concern about what are we giving our children as education, as a purpose, and what are we leaving behind us? And back to the question, Fanny, I asked myself, what are my boys going to tell me when I'm going to go away? And is it like, look, no, thank you for the car, thank you for the house, or etc. I say, no, I was already imagining it. Look at the world you've left us. Look at the inequalities. Look at the sun protection. We need to put 80% protection on the cream because we can't go out. Look at the plastic and so on. And look at the sea. You used to see in the Mediterranean when you were a kid, I cannot swim over there. It's full of plastic. There's no sea. There's no fishes. And I had basically a really big stress moment. I was like, what did I done the last 20 years? And put it together, two other friends, same basically life point. And we decided, look, it's time now to give back, pay forward for the kids. And we could have basically set up an impact fund. We've obviously measured financial return, which was our background. We were all asset management, investment banking, but we decided we want to really have no financial return involved in the way we measure, in the way we select projects. And we decided to be a blown, I would say, foundation, Swiss-based, where the aim, as you mentioned, Marie, is about coaching early stage social entrepreneurs with the foundation team and the advisors we have around us, and as well providing financial support as a donation around, and these projects have to be around the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, the famous SDGs. And as a vertical for the foundation, we've decided to select two, which is education, tech, and youth. And then and the second one is the environment conservation. And on the last point, we basically selected a project in the ocean conservation in the Philippines, where we have teamed up with a well-known UK foundation called the Blue Ventures, where we basically create a project for the foundation working with the coastal communities and the marine protected areas. And I think and then we can talk about various projects later on in the conversation. But I think it was really, to answer your question, Marie, it was the why. And it was really a moment where you say, I am responsible for what we've done. We are the generation that basically did a lot of when you look at all the SDGs, when you look at all the points, we've been responsible for the last 40, 50 years. And I think that there's an accountability, at least in our opinion, that we need to do it a little bit better. There's also a feel good. Let's be honest. There's a feel good element in what we do. It's not the purpose, but it's also a feel good because when you see the impact you have on a project in Uganda, when we support an organization that closes orphanages. In Uganda, it's a $50 billion business, orphanages. When you go there and when you support an organization which is a change maker and where the business model is to close these orphanages, place back the kids into foster care families and convert the orphanages into social communities where you can work, educate, and basically become self-sustainable. This is where I've been into Uganda. I've looked at the impact on some of the kids. And when you know that €1,000, you change the life of one child, you think twice about how you spend €1,000 going forward. And to be as well bluntly honest, we had a couple of fundraising events the last couple of years with a lot of money sitting around the table with people I knew very well, privately or personally. And at the end, in some cases, we had very little contribution. And I basically decided not to meet these guys anymore because we were not aligned in the way we see the world. I'm not saying that they need to give 1,000, etc., but just another small contribution. So there's also a way of shifting of the people I'm surrounded. And it's all about as well this leadership with purpose, as we've also mentioned. I think for us, it was really a way to keep innovation on the foundation level, on the philanthropy side. We are aligned around the VC philanthropy model, which is developed by an organization in Brussels called EVPA. And the way we look at philanthropy is investing. So we look at project. We have a very thorough due diligence process. Our COO is an ex-WC consulting for 20 years. So we came back with very rigorous process. But at the end, what we measure is so we set up KPIs with projects we support, and we measure the KPI for the final beneficiaries. And that's really for us, this model, and we're not the only ones. There's another great foundation, by the way, called Epic Foundation, set up by Alexander Mars, which is also for us has been a role model in the way they set up the foundation and the giving back. You keep innovating and with basically providing different tools in the way we can donate. And there's a few points about the rocket, which we believe was innovating, which is there's an issue about transparency. There's an issue about accountability. There's an issue about selection, but I will come back later on this one.
Thank you, Fabrice, for that introduction to the Rocket Foundation, and also how it changed your personal life somehow, and the personal surroundings and the way you operate in the foundation, but also how you align with your personal behaviors and your personal life. If I come back to you, Fanny, on the generative leaders and how they leave the world a better place, would you have any examples also on yourself on what does it mean in practice, and what is the impact of being a generative leader on the day-to-day?
Yeah, thank you, Marie, and thank you, Fabrice. This is super inspirational. Originally, we wanted to have this conversation about no ego to again, as Marie said, we want to create an aspiration and we can all do something. And I was thinking, okay, I'll be in the panel because I wanted to contribute to my own experience. I've been ultimately, to answer your question, I think this is, as you said, Fabrice, this is about legacy and thinking forward about your legacy and what do you want to leave behind you. That being said, it's not something that we do consciously on a daily basis, but there are moments when maybe you are more inspired to look back and look forward and think about what you want to shift. This was your train moment, Fabrice, that you shared. For me, if I am a bit personal, it's about giving more than you receive. And whatever the reason for that, I have done a lot of work with coaches and in the past, and I continue to do that because I think it's a great way to continue to improve. And you know that when they're asking you about your values and what's important to you, I came back to one thing probably 5 or 6 years ago, is that I am a profoundly generous person. And I don't want to deep dive on that because it would not be very humble, but I'm also quite humble. And so I think for me, there has been this red thread all my life of giving more than I receive, and always being the book give and take in that kind of mindset of giving for receiving. And as you said, Fabrice, when we give, it's never disinterested because you get so much in return, however way you give to others. But rather than continuing on the rambling speech about personal experience on my side, I would like maybe to invite you guys and turn a little bit the table on the short visualization on how do you want to be remembered. Okay, so bear with me. And for that, I would invite you to get into what for you is an alert and relaxed position at the same time. Maybe you need to adjust a little bit your posture, settle differently into your chair. Put your feet flat on the floor if you're seated or if you're standing as well. You may want to turn your camera off for a couple of minutes whilst we do that. Relax your hands, relax your arms so that your body doesn't come in the way of this short meditation that I'm offering to do. And just take a moment to fully arrive in this moment together. If you want, and if you're comfortable like that, you may want to close your eyes. And otherwise, I invite you to slowly lower your gaze. And just give yourself a moment of focus and clarity. Just forget about your to-do for the day. Let go of whatever comes next after this masterclass. And I invite you to scan through your own body, check in, feel your temperature, so to speak. Are you grounded? If you're not ungrounded, that's fine. Don't change anything. Just be aware of where you are now. And I will invite you to shift your attention inwards to your body breathing. And just notice your inhale and your exhale, wherever they feel most prominent to you. And you may feel this at the tip of your nostrils, where cool air enters the nose, or warm breath leaving the mouth. And now I want you to bear with me again for a couple of minutes. And I invite you to picture yourself at the end of your life on your deathbed. And if you're not comfortable with that, just picture yourself at the end of your career. And try to picture yourself very vividly. How are you? What's your posture? How are you? How do you look physically? And just whether the end of your career or deathbed, just imagine your soul flying on top of the room. And maybe if it's the end of your career, just picture yourself with the moment of celebration that will be offered to you as a parting and as a closing of this chapter in your life. And just picture vividly again who is in the room. How many people? Who are there? Are they coming from your personal space, from your professional space? Try to see each one of them one by one. And what emotions do you observe? And given that you're a soul flying on top of all of them, you're gifted with the gift of seeing what they're thinking. What are they thinking about you? What are they saying about you in this moment? How are they talking about your legacy? And just spend some time here. And as your soul as well, when you look back, how do you think about your legacy? And again, I invite you to be very explicit as much as you can. And now, let's take a few deep breaths. And then just move maybe a little bit your fingers, your arms, and come back into the room. Open your eyes if they were closed, and I invite you to turn on your camera again. And let's come back together. So I just want to ask you, how do you feel? And just spend a minute thinking about how do you feel with this meditation and visualization, and take that internally and take that for the rest of the day with you. This is something that this is a moment that we create for many leaders to initiate some aha moment about the legacy. And you may come back to that if you wish at different moments in the day or in the rest of your career. And I will invite you to reflect, and I'll put that in the chat if you want, after the masterclass, bring home some questions about how do you want to be remembered and how do you not want to be remembered? And does that require any changes? And I will hand over with that.
Thank you, Fanny. I will come back to Fabrice and continue on discovering more about the Rocket Foundation. Can you tell us a little more how the foundation operates? What projects do you support? How long do you stay involved? What resources do you provide with them?
Absolutely. The goal for us is really to find change makers. We we select 1 or 2 projects a year, and we usually have a long-term commitment, 5 to 6 to 7 years. At one point, though, when we select project, they know we will at one point let them go. So there's a very important criteria for us at how self-sustainable the project can become after our support. the way we operate is, I would say, like alongside the VC, venture capital philanthropy, which is we look at projects, we have KPIs, we want to compare apple and apple when we look at various projects. We define goals and objectives with the project owners. It can be early stage social entrepreneurs, or they can be as well other foundation. So I was mentioning the foundation in Uganda. We're also working with an organization in Switzerland called Vel Africa, whereby you can send all your old bike by train. It goes to a mini factory in Bern. They employ migrants and people out of jail. They repurpose the bikes. And once they learn a new skill set. And once there's enough bike, they will send by container. And with us, we've created a new mini factory in Tanzania in 2018 with 5 people who've been employed. And we've just learned recently that this factory, after now nearly 5 years, is self-sustainable, which is the revenues they generate from the sale of the bikes to local population, basically pays for all the cost they have locally, which is amazing for us. And we also, so that's basically another, we've also worked in the past with an organization called Power Coder and Youth Coder, which is an organization called in Switzerland, where they basically train young migrants who are already in Switzerland with coding, AI, and computering skill sets as a boot camp. And once they have done this for 2 or 3 months, then you've got large companies, Swiss Re, Swiss Life, UBS, Credit Suisse, and the likes, that take these individuals into internships that then therefore leads to full employment. And we've been supportive into the youth deployment, i.e. not coding for young adults, but more for the youth, which is 12 to 18 years old. And we usually act as a pilot. We love piloting new projects. On this specific project, to answer your question, Marie, we financed the first pilot, and that was with great results. And since then, from one in 2019 or 20, there's already 30 projects like this in Switzerland, in 30 cities. We financed the Lausanne as the first city, which is, I think, that's what we like. We really like to look at projects, look at the impact, finance it, coaching, and then once it's too big for us, too large for us, then we have accelerated it. We have boosted, we have put them into the rocket and send it to the next larger organization. I think that's the way we operate. We really like the small scale human project where we can really have a deep involvement, not on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis, but sometimes monthly, quarterly basis, where we can be involved and we can put our skill set at work for the good. And I think I'd like maybe as well to touch upon the teamwork, as you and Fanny has pointed out about this team approach. Recently, after 5 years, the team is basically pro bono basis. We're a very agile team. We all have different work. We work in the evening, during the weekends, and during the holidays. My kids, they know me as a rocket man, and they know that in the evening, it's usually 2 hours of rocket. That's a standard, excluding the weekend. The weekend, I try to spend time in the evening with them, but they know the rocket man. And I think the team is really, we basically felt in love slowly, but surely with each other. We started with a group of people, friends we knew from 15 years. And then along the lives, we basically had a presentation like we are today. And suddenly there's one guy at the end of the world in Dubai calls me up and say, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing. Can we date?" Because I was about to set up the same organization, but I love the energy. I love the why. Can we date, please? And so then we dated, and then we got engaged, and then we got married. He's part of the organization. He joined the board. He's a very successful multi-entrepreneur based in Dubai with a big heart and with a great mind. He's, by the way, an INSEAD alumni as well. So I think that's basically the team grows with like-minded people. We trust each other to the extent that if there's big decision, we usually meet virtually every week. And we have 2 or 3 times a board meeting a year. The next one is coming in 2 weeks. And we have the policy now that if you snooze, you lose. Meaning, if you're not around for a meeting or a decision, trust the other guys. They will basically take the right decision for the team. And I think that's the beauty of it. I trust my team, the team, to the extent that they can take decision, engaging the reputation, the rocket name, my name on it. I have no problem at all. I think this is where we put together this collective intelligence that you were mentioning, Fanny, earlier. Obviously, on the ego side, I think it's been years I have lost my ego somewhere into the corporate world. And I think I've decided to put more energy in doing good, having positive impact. then basically look after myself and make sure that I'm rightly positioned, I say the right things, I'm meeting the right people. For me, that's not important anymore. It has been very important for 20 years, but at one point I went to another stage in my life where I think the trust side is important. It's okay to be vulnerable. I fully endorse that, Fanny. I think by selecting projects in the foundation, we also show our vulnerability, because we basically have sometimes we fall in love with project and we fall in love with people. And sometimes we go for it because it makes sense from a social impact. But sometimes we have to tell ourselves, look, we love the human being, but the project is not designed for a strategy. And it's a heartbreaking moment where we basically love the idea, but the way it's been executed is not for us. Sometimes we spend time in coaching to make sure that we can potentially find ourselves, but sometimes we have to let it go. That's in a nutshell how we operate, Marie. So we are very transparent. One of the ways we basically finance all the administrative fees of and cost of the foundation is borne by the partners. So whenever you select a project, you finance 100, you put $100 or euros, it goes to the project. Nothing goes into the admin world of 5, 10, 20, sometimes 50%, which is usually a break in the foundation world. We are very transparent because we don't do financing on the foundation level. We only ask for more donation on a project basis. The way as well we operate is a bit like on the investment side. The first tranche of the project, we always invest our money first. So we've designed the capital of the foundation and we do a bit of first investment or first loss tranche. And with impact, with measurements. And if it's positive, then we go out to our network. We usually have now corporate partnership, no more individuals, as per my few disappointments we had in the past. And we basically tell them, look, this is what we've achieved with 100. If you join us, we can multiply it by 2 or 3. So we're always looking for this multiplier effect in the way we look at projects.
Thank you. That's very energizing. And I hope the group is also energized by both of your speeches and see that trust, that transparency, collaborations, those are words that we often actually use in the corporate world as a wish list of things that we want to be seen on the everyday. And I feel that you have somehow very positive experiences and very energetic experiences on how to live by this world and how this can work. We sometimes talk also about communication. I feel it's also the core of your messages, talking to each other, being true to the messages that you pass along as a cornerstone of this transparency and this trust that you're putting in the relationship. So thank you for all of that. I will pass again the voice to Fanny, maybe for some additional closing words on generative leadership, on how every one of us can contribute as well on our everyday job and in our lives.
Yeah, thank you, Marie. And I think you also have to leave at some point. So I want to thank you formally now. And if you feel like you need to leave, please do. I don't want to be very long. And I want to thank you, Jean-Louis, for sharing a poem that you've put in the chat. I just wanted to come back to legacy for a minute. The reason why we do all of that with Marie in particular, and we continue to engage in those conversations around generative leadership with you in the masterclass format, is that the future is really uncertain. And we observe, again, this is not about morality or whatever. By no means do we try to be dogmatic about the proposition that we try to discuss in those masterclass. But I think personally that with the uncertainty ahead of us, there's a world of opportunities. And it's a good moment to ask ourselves, what can we do about it? And if I want to be very objective and quite direct about the different buckets of behaviors I observe that some people ignore and continue as if nothing was happening. And I guess to a certain level, that's their choice, and we have to accept that. In the previous masterclass, for those of you who were there, we had some guests who were telling us that it's really harder and harder to ignore, that actually this is not about the future, this is about now. And all those futuristic realities are actually realities of today. And if you want to get some insights about that, I really invite you to listen to the record of the previous one. Some prepare for the apocalypse and dedicate some resources to that. And you all know about, in particular, for example, the transhumanist or very wealthy Silicon Valley entrepreneurs that do that. And in doing that, they probably make the assumption that they'll be fine, or their dynasty will be fine and protected by the wealth. Or you also see we see a lot of people who are very anxious and who are completely blocked by the situation. They want to do something, but it's so complex that they don't know where to start. And they're willing to do something, but it's difficult to start. And that's why I like the example that Fabrice, you shared with us. And there are many other examples that we've tried to share with you. And you have a lot of examples also in your ecosystem. And the last thing I would invite you to do, though, and there are many people doing things, great things. They are usually engulfed in doing those great things and then don't necessarily talk so much about what they're doing, which we need to correct, because we need inspiring models to make our own choice. I would leave you with another question before opening the floor for question on your end. Is Marie mentioned that, and I think you shared that also, Fabrice. It's a good moment also to ask yourself, how much do you need to live? And how much money and wealth do you want to give to your kids or whoever in your family? And once that's explicit, then it's quite liberating, actually. And it's a good way to think differently about how much can I carve out and dedicate to, if I want to do something about the state of the world, how much can I give back and give away? Because I know that I have enough for my living standards as I wish to sustain them. I have enough to get my kids, if I have kids, to go on their life independently. But I still have a little bit of money that I can use to give back to others. With this, thank you very much for listening and contributing.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Good day, everyone.